Welcome to the Global Queens podcast, International Women's Day podcast series. Today, we're honored to be joined by Usha Kong, co-founder and CEO of Novi Futures. Usha's journey from silent survival to fearless leadership is a powerful example of turning personal adversity into meaningful social change. Her work is creating pathways of opportunity for the next generation. Usha, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Magda, for having me.
I'm really excited to have you on the session today because I know we've spoken in the past and you've shared so much inspiring stories about your journey. So let's get quickly into the real conversation. Your story is one of turning personal pain into purposeful leadership. So can you share a pivotal moment when you decided to move from silent survival to creating social change?
I think there was one dramatic turning point for me. For a long time, I was focused on rebuilding stability, but I was always ambitious. And for me, leadership was always on my mind, and I wanted to do well in my career, but I knew I didn't have the formal qualifications. But I also knew I had the capabilities. I believed that if I worked hard, proved myself, and kept pushing forward, I could build influence. And part of that ambition was practical. I wanted to create a better life for my children. Financial security mattered and stability mattered. But there was something else driving me. I believed that if I moved into leadership, I could do things differently. I could recruit differently. I could develop people differently. And I could create more inclusive environments and open those doors for others who didn't have those traditional pathways like me. The shift from survival to purposeful leadership happened when I realized I wasn't just building a career. I was actually building impact. I wasn't pursuing leadership just for status. I was pursuing it because I understood what it feels like to be overlooked. And I wanted to be in a position where I could actually influence that change. And that's when ambition for me aligned with my purpose. So it was always there, but I had to find a route in order to do that.
You've set me off on a special note right now. So let's go into the next question. You work to bridge the gap between education, employment, and opportunity for young people. What is the biggest gap you see today, and how is Novi Futures working to close it?
So the biggest opportunity gap I see isn't talent, it's access. There are incredibly incapable young people everywhere. So talent is everywhere, access isn't. And when access is unequal, opportunity becomes unequal. So young people need access to role models, professional networks, real-world exposure, and clear information about pathways. And that's what we do at Novi Futures. We help to bridge that gap, not just with young people, but also with educators and with parents and carers to help empower them with the information and the knowledge to bring those aspirations and dreams to life, but also to bring the curriculum much closer to the industry and what is happening in the real world. So many young people don't lack ambition, they lack visibility. They haven't had the opportunity to look at vocational pathways. They haven't had the opportunity around the information they need around vocational pathways. There are more than one pathway into a career. It's not just universities. So looking at degree or over and above degrees, looking at alternative entry points, like your vocational and apprenticeship pathways. But no one explains those options. So they remain and continue to remain invisible for these young people. And it's really important that they learn about that. And another major gap is social and cultural capital. Not everyone grows up in environments where networking feels natural to them, or they have people that's going to help them and understand why that is important. They don't always have the professional language because it's not familiar for them if they're not brought up in that environment, and where informal introduction and doors are going to be open for them. So it's not about ability, it's about exposure. Through my work in social mobility, I focus on creating practical exposure connecting young people to businesses, to mentors, and to real work environments. So through mentoring programs with Novi Futures and through
Yeah.
opportunity days, we help to build confidence, networks, and understanding of how systems work. So young people don't just aspire, they can navigate confidently. Because once access improves, opportunity becomes realistic, not theoretical.
It's just really amazing what you're doing to empower these younger ones. Like you said, it's not that they lack ambition. They do have ambition, but they lack and they need
Yeah.
opportunities.
And I think, Magda, it's really important that when young people can see themselves in those spaces, everything
Yeah.
shifts for them. You can't be what you can't see. And that's so important that they're able to see those role models and actually hear from industry experts and professionals in those spaces what really happens and not just what is secondhand knowledge or
Yeah.
secondhand information. They get to feel it for themselves.
Yeah.
They're actually have doors open to them and actually in those worlds of those industry experts.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing this. So, your key message is that resilience is not just about enduring hardship, it's about using your voice to create opportunity for others. So, how can someone who is still in the process of healing their own trauma begin to think about empowering others?
So I love this question because it's really, really important. Now, you don't have to be fully healed to make impact, but you do need to have awareness. So for me, empowerment doesn't start with having all the answers. It starts with honesty. It starts with saying, I understand struggle and I'm willing to walk alongside you. Sometimes empowering others is as simple as listening, sharing what you've learned, and being present. You don't need a platform, but that helps. But you do need perspective. And often helping someone also reminds you of your own strength. And for me, that is so true. And I suppose that's why I do a lot of what I do, because it really has helped me heal. It's helped me understand what I have to offer and how in that process, I'm also healing. So what I
Yeah.
would also say, healing and helping must coexist.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Usha. So, you were married at 16 and widowed at 24, navigating immense cultural pressures. How did you find the courage to defy those expectations and forge your own path?
I sometimes ask myself that too. You don't realize it in the moment because you just do. And when you sit back and someone asks you that question, you sort of reflect back. And knowing I was doing this, it gave me a chance to think. I didn't wake up feeling courageous. Courage for me wasn't a single bold decision. It was built gradually. And to be honest, I'm still building. I'm still healing. But it was saying yes to things that felt uncomfortable. It was entering rooms where I felt uncertain, and it was speaking
Yeah.
up when I questioned myself. And those moments existed so much for me. I always
Mhm.
felt like I never belonged. That space was never for me. I was never good enough. I didn't have normal or traditional qualifications or education. So I always felt on the back foot. But I just kept pushing myself. I was afraid at times. I questioned myself and I did feel out of place, but I just kept moving forward. I think courage grows through action. For me, for
Mhm.
sure, it did. And every time you step forward, even when you feel unsure, you do build confidence. And I think responsibility played a big role for me in how I navigated that. As a mother, and I was a single mother at 24 of two children, 6 and 3. I knew I had to be a model, a role model, and I had to
Yeah.
model resilience and possibility. I couldn't allow my circumstances to become a ceiling for my children. And I wasn't going to allow that to happen. So I didn't rewrite my story in one bold move. And I didn't even think I was doing that because in that moment you're surviving. I rewrote it quietly,
Mm.
decision by decision, one small step at a time, building my confidence as I went along. And those small decisions gradually reshaped my direction. So courage isn't always dramatic. Sometimes it's consistency and consistent approaches.
Yeah. Wow. See, I'm just having all the goosebumps again. So I just love how you've talked about the awareness. It's just taking baby steps, right? That awareness and then building the courage through taking those baby steps, giving yourself the chance to, even where you don't feel confident, still going ahead and taking those opportunities, being in those rooms where you would have felt uncomfortable, but still going there anyway to build that courage even
Yeah.
more.
And I think, Magda, for me, the turning point would have been the biggest shift in my confidence would have been when I became self-employed, when I lost my job. So I lost my job in the city. I was made redundant quite early on. And when I was working in the city, I loved my job. But I think I always felt I didn't look like anybody else, or I didn't have anyone else's
Mm.
experiences that everyone else had. So I
Yeah.
always felt a little bit on the outside or not good enough. But when you become self-employed,
Yeah.
you are everything for that business. And because I still had young children who were in education, I had to make it work.
Yeah.
And I made a conscious effort to go into the self-employment route because I didn't think I had enough to get another great job, because that chip on my shoulder of you don't have a qualification was always there.
Yeah.
And that voice was always there. And I didn't at the time know how to deal with that. I didn't have mentors. I didn't have guidance or support. So I took the route of self-employment, probably the scariest route. And I was absolutely scared, but didn't know what else to do. But becoming self-employed, becoming an entrepreneur was probably the making of me when it
Hmm.
comes to my confidence, because, and you'll know this, and lots of entrepreneurs out there will agree, you've got to learn everything
Yeah.
initially. So I was, in a way, forced to go and network. I had to put myself out there.
Yeah.
So I was at every breakfast meeting, every luncheon, every evening event. So I had to talk. I had to network. I had to create who I was and who this new Usha was going to be. That's where my confidence came. And as you go through these different experiences, you're learning, right? You're learning knowledge.
Yeah.
You're learning everything. And every time you're
Absolutely.
learning, you've got more to contribute. You've got more to talk about in these spaces. You then slowly feel that actually I'm an equal. I do belong here. I have something to contribute. I have something to say. So that for me has helped so much in elevating who I am and making me feel that I am worthy. But you're still stepping into spaces even now where you think, do I fit in? And you still got to keep pushing. But that courage, I think, came from if I could do it 20 odd years ago, I can now keep going.
Absolutely. Wow. Thank you for sharing this, really. And if you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, the one who felt unheard and unseen, what would it be?
Don't try and fit into systems or places. Just trust yourself and value yourself and take every opportunity to learn. And I don't mean just academically. Learning isn't just academic. It's through life experiences. And our lived experience carries so much value. And use that to help others, because you learn through helping others. And don't close the door behind you. Keep it wide open as you're doing that, going through that process, because that's where growth happens the most, as you're helping others and as you're learning at the same time. So I would say, don't be ashamed of where you come from,
Yeah.
where you've started. Just be hungry to embrace every opportunity ahead of you, and don't try and fit in to what society tells you have to fit into.
Usha, thank you for sharing such a courageous and inspiring story. Your journey reminds us that resilience is not only about surviving, but about transforming our experiences into purpose and impact. Your leadership is creating hope and opportunity for so many. So, to our listeners, may this conversation remind you of the path within your own story. Thank you for joining us on the Queen's Couch podcast. Thank you.
Thank you.